Till in 2001, Kenny Waters, a man who was wrongly imprisoned 18 years for murder, was finally freed after his high school dropout sister went to law school to prove his innocence. My sister likes me. But she doesn't. Drop everything and goes to law school to become my attorney. Likes me. Oh, boy, if this isn't one fucked up investigation and trial. On the morning of May 21, 1980, Katrina Wright's Brow was murdered in her home. Kenny Waters became a suspect because he lived next to the victim with his girlfriend, Brenda Marsh. He worked at the Park Street Diner in Ayr, where Brow was a frequent customer. It was apparently known to diner employees that Brow kept a large amount of cash in her home. Waters was questioned by police and provided a strong alibi that he had worked until 8:30 a.m. on the day Brow was killed and a co-worker had driven him home. He changed clothes and had been in the Ayr courthouse for a 9 a.m. appearance with his attorney. He said he left the courthouse after 11 a.m. and returned to the diner, where he stayed until 12:30 p.m. Officers examined his clothes and body and did not see any apparent blood stains or cuts. He was fingerprinted and questioned further but not charged. In October 1982, Robert Osborne, who was living with Brenda Marsh, Waters' ex-girlfriend, at the time, went to the Ayr Police Department and allegedly offered to provide information on the murder in exchange for money. Osborne said Marsh had told him that Waters confessed to her that he had killed a woman. Officers then interrogated Marsh and purportedly threatened to charge her as an accessory to murder and take away her children if she didn't corroborate Osborne's claim. She initially refused, saying Osborne's statements were untrue. Eventually, however, she agreed to cooperate and she told police that Waters had returned home on the morning of the murder with a long, deep scratch on his face. Rosanna Perry, another former girlfriend of Waters, also initially told police that she had no information about the crime, but after more than 3 hours of interrogation and threats of arrest, she told them Waters had said something about stabbing a woman and stealing her money and jewelry. Based on these statements, Waters was charged with murder. Waters' trial began in May 1983. Although police had used fingerprints to exclude Waters during the investigation, these records were apparently not provided by police to prosecutors. A forensic analyst testified that 3 hairs collected from the crime scene, including one in the victim's hand and one on the murder weapon, did not match the victim or Waters. Waters was convicted on May 11, 1983, and sentenced to life in prison. I think there was a movie about this with Sam Rockwell. Maybe. She is a woman of focus, commitment, and sheer will. Imagine going to law school for years to free your brother and some guy on Reddit refers to you as the high school dropout sister. Wow, that's great and all, but if a not lawyer could go to law school, graduate, become an attorney and then prove someone's innocence and get them released, then probably an already lawyer should have done that like, a long-ass time ago. You know, like, the first time he was on trial type of long time ago. I know, new DNA evidence, but still, he had a solid alibi. I wasn't there and I can prove it should have been more than enough for reasonable doubt. And he had to do her chores for the rest of his life. She has never practiced as a lawyer again, though she volunteers for the Innocence Project, and continues to work in a Rhode Island pub. That's interesting to say the least. Amazing, makes you wonder about the justice system in general. He had to wait until his only persistent defender had to get a law degree to prove his innocence. The movie is Conviction, I highly recommend it. And never worked as a lawyer again. Wow. It's amazing that she did it, but goddamn, she should not have needed to. I love inspirational stories, but can we talk about how much bullshit the legal system is? Cops can charge you with anything. DAs can bring anything to trial, and a jury of your peers can find you guilty even when it is literally impossible for you to have done the crime. So, it's tempting to look at this as wow, look at the underdog hero winning against insurmountable odds. Good on the sister and good for Mr. Waters. But what we have here is yet another failures of the so-called justice system of the United States, and what this story really exemplifies is the dire need to reform. https://www. Innocence Project. org/cases/Kenny Waters/ and https://www. law. UMich. edu/special/exoneration/pages/case detail. ASPX, case 8 = 3722. Katharina Brau was killed in 1980 at her home. Crime scene investigators recovered hairs, blood, and fingerprints in the house. Her body was found at 10:45 a.m. A fingerprint and hair didn't match, but police didn't disclose this to the prosecutors. Waters was questioned by police and provided a strong alibi that he had worked until 8:30 a.m. On the day Brau was killed, a co-worker had driven him home and then he had been in the Air courthouse for a 9 a.m. appearance with his attorney. He didn't have time sheets. 2 years later Robert Osborne was looking to be paid as an informant, and was living with Marsh, Waters' girlfriend at the time. He told the police Marsh had told him Waters had confessed to the murder. Marsh signed a statement after an interrogation, where she was told she would be charged as an accessory to murder and her children taken away if she did not cooperate. The statement had errors, like Waters having a scratch on his face, the police had seen none, and placing Waters drunk at home at a time when he was with his attorney in the courthouse. Another ex-girlfriend also testified to Waters confessing, after being threatened with arrest. A ring which Waters tried to sell, was identified as possibly belonged to Brau during the trial. A policewoman on the case had privately concluded that it was too small for Brau's fingers. Waters had lived near Brau, and she had called the police on him when he broke into her house at age 10. Blood type at the scene matched Waters' type. And thus Waters was convicted. At each appeal, the police/prosecutors turned over incomplete records which didn't have info on fingerprint testing, or hair testing. DNA evidence from the blood found at the scene eventually was tested decades later, and Waters was released. A reinvestigation turned up the full evidence and his ex-girlfriends revealed the arrest threats that had caused them to sign the statements. She also lost her marriage in the process when her husband complained she loved her brother more than him. Nothing of value was lost. I don't wish to appear unsympathetic towards the people whose incompetence put him in prison for 2 decades, but I would consider suicide if I were one of those people. I would feel so ashamed. How did she go to law school without a high school diploma? She must have got her GED, then went to a 4-year college, then went to law school. That's dedication. Seriously impressive. I finished law school in 2017. Wasn't easy. The lesson here is have a good lawyer. Pretty sure they made a movie out of their story. Just checked, it's called Conviction and stars Hilary Swank. I remember it being pretty good. Sad that happened to him. There's a reason why many states outlawed the death penalty. She has never practiced as a lawyer again, though she volunteers for the Innocence Project, and continues to work in a Rhode Island pub. I love this. What a story of love and determination. He was suicidal in jail, but cheered up by her faith in his innocence. I don't care if it takes you 80 years, if you tell me you'll do it, you will, and I know you'll find a way to prove my innocence. She was a waitress at the time. She kept her promise and enrolled in community college. She said, I figured I would at least keep my brother alive just by being there. It took 12 years for college and law school and 30 to prove his innocence. She managed to get new DNA evidence and aid from the Innocence Project. Ironically, the police had fingerprint and hair evidence that excluded Waters, but did not provide that information to prosecutors. Waters also had a strong alibi. He was at work with an entire kitchen staff, which the police had confirmed at the time. Just 6 months after the prosecution dropped all charges against him on June 19, 2001, Waters died due to a head injury resulting from an accidental fall. Kenny had the best 6 months of his life, his sister stated. After so many years behind bars, the world was new to him. Ref. https://www. Prison Legal News. org/news/2017/mar/9/ Justice wrongfully convicted prisoners die shortly after exoneration/ The town settled a lawsuit with his estate 8 years later, for $14.1 million, and the movie Conviction starring Hilary Swank was made on the saga. Betty Ann Waters has never practiced as a lawyer again, though she volunteers for the Innocence Project, and continues to work in a Rhode Island pub.